Good morning to you, Dennis Welsh. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Catherine. But look, I want to come on to what I think is quite significant. Now, I'm going to have a go at the Herald here again, too, and the Dominion Post. Now, look, in the 6 weeks between mid-August and the end of September, the New Zealand Herald ran 47 stories about the Winston Peters donation saga. 16 of them on the front page. 9 times they led the paper with a Peters story, once or twice filling the entire front page, and further stories about the saga often ran as lead stories further in. Roughly 10 whole broadsheet pages worth of copy in that time, and that's not counting several editorials and many John Armstrong columns and other columnist comment. So, when the Serious Fraud Office decided not to proceed against Winston Peters, where was the story? Halfway down the page, quite small, not blown up at all. The Dominion Post, which really went to town and gave the entire front page to the issue when the Serious Fraud Office announced its inquiry into Peters, put the story that he'd been cleared right at the foot of the page. The main headline up the top said, "Cleared." But in fact, it was a story about Fairfax Media, the Dominion's owner, being cleared of contempt of court charges. Now, what does this tell us? I don't think Peter's got a fair crack of the whip there.
I think the other issue is this. No one asked the Serious Fraud Office, that office that has been criticised for so long for only taking must-win cases. I think it has a success rate of something like over 90%. And that's fair enough. That's court cases we're talking about here. Why did you undertake this investigation in the first place, and did it meet the threshold? And if so, why did you end up with this damp squib?
You may recall that the head of the Serious Fraud Office said these are serious and complex matters, and hinted
well, that's
at
their threshold. That terminology made it sound so bad because that's the threshold it had to reach.
Right.
But it was certainly not what was delivered.
That's right. Now, there are still some outstanding matters, sure, but given the seriousness, which is what this is all about, of the issue in the first place, is it not fair and right that the clearance, the acquittal as it were, should be given as much space, as much headline coverage as the initial charges and claims?
The other matter that slipped off the radar was that Helen Clark in the end said, "I'm going to wait for all of these inquiries to be through." Remember, the reason he stood down was the Serious Fraud Office inquiry. And yet again, when the Serious Fraud Office inquiry came back, we had her saying, well, I'm not going to reinstate him now. But not much of a hue and cry over it, really, was there?
No, and she's played quite a clever game there. But of course, the paucity of the Peters story, which I've argued all along was not unimportant, but certainly not as important as the media made out, has been really exposed by the fact that we've got some real news now in our papers. The world financial crisis, can the world be saved? Not to mention the forests.